In this video, I'm going to explain to you guys how I removed literally every single limiting belief that I had in order to live in what I now refer to as my dream reality. I have full location freedom, full time freedom. I have my dream girl, a beautiful woman in my life. I have achieved my peak physique, and I also run my dream business and work with my dream clients as well. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, who is this guy? Why is he talking? Why should I even watch this video? And honestly, if you're coming into the watching of this video with that mindset, I would suggest that you click off right away and just go, watch like a Mr. Beast video or some other shit that's going to pass the time, because this video is not going to be for you. But if you feel stuck in ways that you can't really describe, and you feel like you keep hitting a ceiling no matter how hard you try and no matter how hard you push, and if you know that there's a version of yourself that you're capable of becoming, permanently, not just temporarily, that's going to allow you to achieve all the things that you want to achieve, and you just aren't that person right now, then I suggest you definitely stay and you definitely watch, because by the end of this video, I'm going to explain some things about your mind and about how to, let's say, bend them to your will, or bend it to your will, that you did not know before you clicked on here. I'm going to walk you through the 4 phases I used in order to achieve my dream reality from what was a situation of utter despair, to be honest. So my name is Tristan. And about 2 years ago, I had done literally everything society told me was the right thing to do. I went to university, I got a degree in finance, I worked in corporate banking and in corporate finance for 3 whole years, and I did literally every single thing to check off all of the boxes of conformity, every single thing in accordance with what people told me would set me free in general. And at some point I hit a wall and I had to ask myself, is this it? Is this going to be it for the rest of my life? And as a result of putting myself in that place and asking myself those questions, I had become comfortable. I smoked weed every day for 2 years. I was a terrible boyfriend. I was a terrible son. I was a terrible brother. And at best, I was simply an inconsistent friend. I put on a mask for literally every single person that I ever spoke to. I never was like my true authentic self with anyone. I never showed anyone who I actually was. I was always confident on the outside, but full of self-doubt and a bunch of other stuff on the inside. And then one day I broke, right? I was too scared up to that point to ask myself the question, who am I and what am I here for? And then I did some reflecting and I looked at the trajectory of my life and I realized that this would genuinely be the rest of it, right? The exact life that I had built up until this point, this comfort, this lack of being a good guy, this lack of being the man I wanted to be, and that terrified the fuck out of me. And it was also, ironically enough, the most important thought or criticism or moment that I ever had. And from that situation, I do have to give myself a pat on the back, because I did something that most people never do, and that is quit. I quit my job, I quit the safety, I quit everything. But the irony, again, was that nothing changed. I had a new environment, I had a new title, I had new income, I had new opportunities. I was the COO of a 7-figure coaching business. And even though I had all that stuff, I was the same man underneath. I had the same patterns, I was operating via the same beliefs, I had the same ceilings that were showing up all over my life. I was just kind of in a slightly better situation. Eventually, somebody did me a favor and held up a mirror to me that showed me who I actually was. They showed me the beliefs that I had never previously examined and the patterns that I had never previously identified. They showed me a version of myself that I had been way too scared to accept was actually real. And I will downplay this a little bit, but that shit hurt. It hurt so much. It was the most uncomfortable moments of my life. But from there, that person taught me to dismantle everything that had been running my life without my permission and helped me build something new in its place. It helped me become the man that I am today. I came out of the other side literally changed in every way, shape, and form. I now call the process that I went through there, and the process that I help people go through as well, bending the mind. Bending the mind to your will so that nothing you believe or that you experience can ever hold you back. Everything that you believe and experience is set up to serve you. When you do this and you bend your mind to your will, I promise you, you literally become superhuman. And there are 4 phases to it. So now I'm going to walk you through every single one of those. To begin, we have phase 1. You can't fight what you can't see. And to begin the explanation for this phase, I want to start by asking you a question. Why do you keep doing the same shit over and over and over again, even when you know that that stuff isn't what you need to be doing, even when you know that the things you're doing aren't serving you? You hit the same ceilings, you repeat the same patterns in your life and inside of your business, and you repeat the same behaviors all the time. On top of that, you self-sabotage and you self-destruct when things start to get good and when things start to get serious. No matter how hard you try to change these things, they just keep showing up in your life and you have literally no idea why. Now, most people make the mistake of blaming things like discipline or like motivation, but that is absolutely not what the problem is. I want to nip that in the butt right away. The problem is what neuroscientists call pattern recognition automation. 95% of everything that you do every single day is being run and being decided by your subconscious mind. This happens without your awareness. It happens without your permission. It's like automatic. You know, when you see something and that thing makes you uncomfortable and you feel like you didn't even have a processed thought to feel the emotion of that thing, that is your subconscious mind triggering that emotion. I want you to think about this like driving a car, right? The first time that you drove, you had to think about like literally every single thing. Everything was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I need to think about the brake and the clutch pedal and checking my mirrors and everything. But now you can drive for hours and it's light work. You know, you can drive for hours and you literally won't even remember anything that you did in a driving capacity. It's because your brain, after the 99th time of doing it, has automated the process. And it does the exact same thing with your fears, your insecurities, your relationship with money, your tendency to pull back when things get actually real in your business or in life. All of this stuff is simply running automatically and dictating how you're living your life every single day. And all of it is built from experiences that happened to you many years ago. Something might have said something to you when you were 12 years old that made you feel like you weren't good enough. You know, maybe also a pattern with your parents installed a belief about money or success. Maybe they told you that being rich isn't realistic, or, you know, money doesn't fall on trees, anything like that. And if that happened, I guarantee you that you now hold these beliefs inside of your brain because your brain drew a conclusion and automated the process of thought. And it has been doing so ever since the event happened. That is why willpower is only working for you temporarily. You only change to become someone else temporarily, and eventually you'll always fall back to your default mode of programming because 5% of your mind is trying to override 95% of it that is running your life automatically. That battle has one outcome literally every single time. So phase one is not about fixing anything and about installing anything new and about thinking differently. It is simply about seeing stuff. Because like I mentioned before, and what the whole phase is called, you cannot fight what you cannot see. And Carl Jung actually has my favorite quote about this. He says that until you bring the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. All you need to do right now is open your eyes and see the truth. Which leads us into phase two, the unbecoming. This is where most people get the process completely wrong. The moment that they identify a limiting belief or a bad pattern happening in their life, they just try to simply replace it with something positive, like affirmations or journaling or some other strategy. They just go about reframing their negative thoughts. And I'll be honest with you, that stuff does work sometimes, and it works temporarily though. Because eventually something super difficult is going to happen, whether it be a bad month in business, whether it be a public failure, or somebody leaves like a hate comment on your Instagram, or, you know, a potential or 5 potential clients sign with a competitor of yours. And then every single positive thought and every single positive reframe won't hold a candle to the intensity of the emotion that you're now feeling. So you go right back to the person that you were before. Because what you were doing was never solving the actual root problem. You were just managing the symptoms of the problem as they occurred. Think of it like painting over mold, right? The wall might look better on the surface after you paint it, but the longer you leave it there, the more it will grow underneath. And the longer you leave it, the worse it will get. In neuroscience, this is referred to as Hebbian learning. If you've ever heard the sentence, neurons that fire together wire together, that's what that is. The beliefs that are running your life are not thoughts themselves. They're essentially, neural pathways that have grooved themselves and planted themselves deeply into your brain through years upon years upon years of repetition. They have now become habit. They become imprints. You can't override them or change them with positive affirmations or positive thinking, no less than you would be able to fix a broken bone that was completely separated with just painkillers. Like, that makes no sense. So what you need to do is go back to where the belief that you have was formed, trace it to its origin, and I guarantee you, I promise you, that you're able to remember it, because the emotions that were generated from these moments were far more intense than anything else you've ever experienced. Think about if you're like 20 years old, or you're 26 in my case. Think about how many things I've experienced in my 26 years. How many things I can't remember for the life of me and that I never will be able to. But the things that I can remember, they're there for a reason. Your brain is incredibly complex, and it remembers the things that it needs to. So you need to go back to these moments and understand what conclusions you drew from them and why. And when you bring these things to the limelight and you start looking at them as they are, you dissolve their authority at their root, right? You ask yourself, okay, is this belief that I got from this event serving me? Does it make any sense that I would actually believe this? No. 99% of the time, no. That is what unbecoming is. It is the removal of everything that was never actually yours to begin with. Because you cannot become who you truly are while still carrying who you were told to be or who you were before. Which leads us to phase 3. The becoming. Most people believe that when their external reality changes, they will finally feel different on the inside. You know, when they hit the revenue goal, when they land a new client, when they make more money, they're finally going to feel confident in themselves, or they're going to feel worthy of, being something. But that shit is completely backwards, because your brain has a filter that we call the reticular activating system. And the job of this RAS is to show you only what is consistent with your identity and your beliefs. If you believe, for example, deep down that you are someone who is unable to sustain success, then your brain will surface and look for every single piece of evidence that would be aligned with that belief. It will show you all the criticisms, all the reasons that this success is only temporary. It will never show you the confirmation that, maybe you're going to make it, maybe things are going well. It will make you self-destruct. Every compliment that you get will be filtered out. And on the flip side, every negative comment you get will be completely internalized, which means that your external reality will never change until your internal identity and internal state and internal reality changes first. Think about two people that were like at the same networking event, right? One is going to walk in believing that he is that guy. He belongs exactly where he is. Whereas the other guy is going to think he's a loser and that he's an imposter and he's waiting to be, found out. They're in the same room. They're surrounded by the same people. Maybe they have the exact same credentials, but they're going to have completely different experiences and experience different outcomes. Not because of the strategy that they're applying, but because of the identity that they're holding inside of them and the beliefs and the actions that they're taking in alignment with that identity. As within, so without. Similar to what I just mentioned before. Your outer world is a direct reflection of your inner world. Not metaphorically, but mechanically. So if we understand that, phase 3 is then about building the new identity deliberately from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in. Not through affirmations that you don't believe and surface level ways of making yourself feel good about yourself, but through the precise construction of who you actually are and the life that you actually want to live. You stop waiting to become the person you want to be, and you simply decide to be. Which brings us to phase 4 and the final phase. I was just able to fit it on the board. The state of permanence. Now, most people that do any kind of work like this and any self-development stuff have temporary transformations. They feel different for a short amount of time, but then their life gets difficult. They get external pressure arriving, and the old version of them comes rushing back as if it literally never left. Because the work that they did, this self-development work, whatever it might have been, never went deep enough to stick and reaffirm or change, their previous identity. What differentiates a transformation that lasts from one that doesn't is what is referred to as long-term potentiation. Every time that you activate a neural pathway, remember I mentioned the grooves of the brain before, it will get stronger. Every time you choose a new response, emotional response, over an old one, the new pathway will become more dominant until eventually your brain will just have that pathway as an automatic default. It won't be something that you practice. You won't need to do positive affirmations. It won't be something you need to remind yourself of. It'll just be who you are. Think about the gym, for example. The first time that you walked into the gym, assuming that you go, everything was unfamiliar, right? And you had to think about every single movement, every machine you wanted to use, every single workout you wanted to do. But now, if you've been going for quite some time, you walk in and your body just knows what to do. It knows what exercises to take part in. It knows how to move your body during those exercises. And actually going for you is automatic now. It's just a part of who you are. simply because you did it enough times that it became who you are rather than something that you do. It is a part of your identity. That same process applies to literally everything that we're talking about in this video and every single thing that you want to change about yourself. When you do the work consistently enough and at the root level instead of just surface level affirmations, you will one day wake up and the old pattern will have nowhere to operate from anymore. The external pressure will arrive, these situations that, you felt unprepared for before, and you will not fracture. You will have a bad month in business and you will not collapse. Your energy will be completely unfazed. Not because you're suppressing the emotions of that experience, but because the foundation, the person that is experiencing those things is, fundamentally different. So phase 4 is just making sure the identity that you're building isn't a peak that you visit occasionally and then come back down to like a lower point. It becomes a baseline that you live from in a state of permanence. So that is the framework that I used to bend my mind and become what I refer to as superhuman. Before I close this out, I want to be very clear about one thing and about what this work entails. This shit is not easy, right? This is not a mindset hack. This isn't even mindset work. And it's simply not a shortcut either. It is the most confronting, uncomfortable, and most likely difficult thing that you will probably ever do. And if you feel as though you are prepared to do it, then this is your time to do it. But if you feel as though you just want to continuously feel good about yourself and give yourself, positive affirmations, then this video wasn't for you. And you probably shouldn't do this work because you aren't ready. Nothing that you're experiencing is a strategic problem. Every ceiling, every, business failure, every milestone that you hit where you feel empty, none of it has anything to do with anything except for your subconscious, except for the part of your brain that's running you automatically. If you don't address that at the root, you will never change. Your life will go on and you will be asleep. You will never experience what it feels like to be truly awake and truly experience life. But the moment that you see these things clearly and you take a step back and you dismantle them and you replace them and you put them there permanently, everything will change. Your business will change. Your relationships will change. The way you feel about yourself will change. The way you show up around everyone around you with confidence and conviction in who you are, everything will change. And that is the process of bending the mind. That is what becoming superhuman feels like at its core. If this video resonated with you at all, or if it was at all helpful, hit like, hit subscribe. And if you want help uncovering the patterns, the beliefs, the self-sabotage, the self-destruction, the things that you actually need to uncover in phase 1, you can't fight what you can't see, then just book a clarity call down below at the link in the description, and I will be more than happy. I will actually be privileged to help you uncover what is holding you back and what is, standing in the way of you being the most lethal business owner, human being that you can possibly be. In the same way that I was able to go through the process myself, I now deliver that transformation for others. I want to thank you guys all for watching. These videos are my absolute passion to create, and I hope you all have a blessed rest of your days. Peace out.